snows, I skied in and they froze. I don't know nothing but no ice, I'm just cold. 40-something millisubs or so, I've been told. I'm in my prime, but this ain't even final form. They know me down, but still my feet, they find the floor. I went from living room straight up to sold out tours. Life's fire, but once I'm ready for the war. Whoa, this is how the story goes. Whoa, I guess this is how the story goes. I'm in the thick of it, everybody knows. They know me where it snows, I skied in and they froze. I don't know nothing but no ice, I'm just cold. 40-something millisubs or so, I've been told. From the screen to the ring, to the pen, to the king. Where's my crown? That's my bling. Always drama when I ring. See, I believe that if I see it in my heart, smash through the ceiling, cause I'm reaching for the stars. Whoa, this is how the story goes. Whoa, I guess this is how the story goes. I'm in the thick of it, everybody knows. They know me where it snows, I skied in and they froze. I don't know nothing but no ice, I'm just cold. 40-something millisubs or so, I've been told.
Highway to heaven, I'm just cruising by my lone. They cast me out, left me for dead, them people cold. My faith in God, mine in the sun, I'm by the soul. My life is hard, I took the wheel, I cracked the code. Yeah.
Everybody knows, they know me where it snows, I skied in and they froze. I don't know nothing but no ice, I'm just cold. 40-something millisubs or so, I've been told. I'm in the thick of it, everybody knows. They know me where it snows, I skied in and they froze. I don't know nothing but no ice, I'm just cold. 40-something millisubs or so, I've been told. Whoa. Two-face, yeah. Black, white, left, right, yeah. Up, down, all night, yeah. Can't escape it ever, don't forget my name. I don't feel the same on a trip, no train. And all these angels and demons keep shouting and screaming, I'm falling from needing. So
Alright guys, everybody should be able to hear me. There we go. Alright, cool. Let me shift this over, make sure everybody has a link, and we'll jump in. Make sure I get everything open for y'all to walk through the tickers we've been talking about. So definitely we'll touch base on Tesla, which I need to remove some of these minor levels, and we'll look at the larger time frame because we got the breakout I've been looking for. So let's see, got that there. Let me drop this real quick over here for these other people. Give everybody a second to join in as well. If there's any specific tickers y'all want me to touch on, feel free to throw it down in the chat, so in the live stream chat, either way. And then from there, we'll go through the list that I've already got from some people, as well as go through the ones y'all want me to go through. So let's see. we're definitely gonna look at some crypto real quick too. Alright, so let's start with Tesla, right? So like I've been talking about and wanting to see on Tesla, ultimately the weekly and monthly I wanted to see a breakout above 300. So we got that. We got it with strong buying volume. So I want to see the push higher up here. I'm actually going to hide these levels real quick so you can see a bit of this. But ultimately you had a downtrend here, right? Guess I'm going to put that back so you can see it a little bit better. But I'll delete some of these levels so you can see hopefully that range a little bit cleaner. The key level that we really wanted to see a push above for Tesla to see the reversal is the 300 level, which we got that, and ideally you get that with a strong push of volume and buying momentum, which is exactly what we got here, so that's beautiful. I don't love that we left so many gaps to the downside. Those will probably get filled at some point, but in the meantime, definitely loving the ride with all my Tesla shares at this point. So we'll see how things go into next week. I did sell 2 covered calls today. Later this afternoon when I sold them, but I saw the rejection up here at this level off that previous resistance, and it tapped it. And when it tapped it, I went ahead and sold 2 covered calls. I tried to provide a detailed example, which you can see here a bit better. I tried to provide a detailed example, and I guess I can do a separate video specifically on Tesla covered calls, but I think a lot of people get nervous about selling covered calls on Tesla because they're scared they're going to get signed, and that's fine. But even today, like the ones I sold, it was the 270s. I think I got like $4,500 per covered call sold. Keep in mind that me selling those at $270 and $4,500 basically is like the equivalent of if I get assigned at $270, it'd be like selling at $325, right? So keep that in mind. You're not actually really taking a loss. Same thing with the way that I was selling on the way up. But real quick, chart review. We got the breakout on Tesla. So jumping over to Bitcoin because it's awesome, and we're ripping yet again on Bitcoin. So you can see here we got this beautiful breakout on multiple time frames going on. Even if I look at the weekly, which is where the more significant chart pattern is and carries more weight, you've got this huge cup and handle on Bitcoin, as well as a bull flag here that we broke out of, retested, and then bounced and moved higher. So this is great. I'll be watching for continuation movement here. We might retrace a little bit and then keep pushing higher. Bitcoin should keep rocking right into next year. Like I told some people over on Discord earlier today, you do want to be careful, or not stress too much, I should say, about like random dips that you see happen between now and the end of the year. Because with crypto, people will take paper losses to offset capital gains taxes on securities because there's no wash sell rule with crypto. So you'll see large wallets sell off big chunks of crypto, and then they'll turn around and immediately buy it back. So I don't stress too much towards the end of the year when I see that, especially since with crypto you can actually see the wallets that are making sales. So just calling it out, making sure everyone is aware, because I know a lot of y'all are newer to crypto in general, but if you see some big rapid kind of dips and pops all at one time, that's typically what that is into the end of the year. So I'll do a separate video talking about paper losses with crypto, because that one deserves its own. But ultimately crypto, Bitcoin especially, breaking out new highs. We actually pushed over 77k earlier today, so that's awesome. Loving that. Before I forget though, we definitely got to take a look at Palantir, because this is ridiculous, right? So if you look on the weekly, and I've got this pattern drawn here because I'm putting together a ebook that kind of explains different types of patterns, as well as the measured moves for each of those, as well as the probability of each of those patterns playing out. So it's something I'm going to make available for people to actually download so that you can use it for reference if you want to gauge what the percentage odds are of you actually getting a breakout, for instance, on a bull flag or bullish megaphone pattern. But this breakout for one of the bullish megaphone, which was down here, is nuts in itself, right? So we completed that move. We had yet another bull flag breakout on the daily that happened over in here, and we're just ripping. Like this thing, like I know me and Chris were kind of chatting last week about the consolidation, and I stayed in because I saw it holding the support, and I'm so glad I did, just because as of today, here I'll show y'all real quick. I actually put it on here so that you could actually see it. Like, look at this. The Palantir, where is it? That's not the right one. That's not giving you what you want to see. That's not the right one. Hold on, let me switch this real quick so you can see it. Actually, I'll just tell you to save time, because some of y'all are just listening. So the Palantir calls that we got in last December, they've been long-term swings. They hit 2,200% gains today. So I've still got a runner on those. Those went $83 to $1,900. That's ridiculous. Even the shorter-term Palantir calls for $65 strike that we got in last month, so about 2.5-3 weeks ago, those ripped as well to 483% gains today. So watching that setup on Palantir was beautiful, and I'm going to keep right on riding that setup until I see signs of a reversal, which this sucker is not showing signs of reversal right now. Indeed, it is showing more pushing. So you can see the buying volume here. See how you have this increase with it going on. I know that there's that one big spike with earnings, so you can consider it an outlier, but ultimately if you look across there, that buying volume is actually, move it. That buying volume is increasing. So buying volume increasing with the breakout shows the momentum in the push. That's bullish. The sucker's going to keep pushing. It's interesting when you look at the different measured moves on it, because if you're looking at that bullish megaphone we broke out of, yeah, you have this breakout move here. If you're looking at the bull flag breakout, the measured move was up in this range, but if you actually measure the larger term bull flag breakout that this thing had on the weekly chart, the measured move, I haven't charted it right here because I removed it because I was taking screenshots for the ebook, but it's like $85. And I'm not promising or saying that we're going to $85 on Palantir, but y'all see this massive green candle, right? So it wouldn't be crazy to see this thing keep on rocking. I'm not saying buy here, chase it, but I'm in shares that I bought at $17.11, and I have yet to sell covered calls against them because this thing is showing no signs of a reversal. So loving this movement. We'll keep riding that. Jumping over to the next ticker here. Let's see on the list, and if you don't mind, hit the like button. That way algorithm helps, and it helps me know that people are getting value out of this. SoFi is the next one I've got here because it's, look at this. Like, I love all of these because these are great examples that you don't have to trade expensive tech stocks and $500 or more expensive contracts to make gains. I think that that's a common trap because a lot of the other Discord and stuff, that'll be the type of alert you see on push. They'll either push that or they'll push very high risk short dated lotto contracts only and nothing else. I'm not saying I never alert lottos and short dated contracts like that. I'll talk about one specifically that I'm kicking myself for selling earlier this week, but just overall, like, there's a lot of cheaper contracts out there on stocks that you can trade longer term on options, make significant gains from a percentage standpoint without risking a lot of capital up front. So you can see here SoFi is playing out the move. So we entered shares here, and we are in multiple call contracts, including some, what was it, January $13 or $15? January $15 we entered yesterday that are already up 97% gains. So, like, again, you can trade swing trade calls and puts on these cheaper contract or cheaper tickers in general, and it's great for smaller accounts that are trying to grow and scale. But SoFi is another one that is showing strong bullish momentum and push up. I will be watching to see what happens when it hits that resistance at 1330. Is it going to maintain that momentum higher, or is it going to reject here and retrace? Honestly, when you get big moves like this, it's okay to retrace, pull back to support, and bounce. That's actually healthy movement. So I'm down for seeing that. In the meantime, I'll keep riding it out. Shares, most definitely not selling covered calls on SoFi shares or Palantir shares yet. It's got to make sense for me to sell covered calls premium-wise, as well as risk the reward of whether or not we rip higher. So SoFi, especially with the Fed cutting interest rates a little bit more, this one will probably benefit into next year. Definitely a good one to keep an eye on from here. We can move a lot higher, so not too late necessarily. I'm not saying just buy in on the peak, but if you see a nice pullback and hold the support, and I will alert some of that if I see it for a new entry. Same thing as we saw yesterday. Just for context here too, you look here. So yesterday I saw the pullback and hold of support in this range right here. and I took the opportunity to buy more calls because I saw the bullish flow just flooding over on unusual whales, and then it ripped hard today, so I was glad I followed the whale flow. Again, I will do a video on the whale flow specifically because I know somebody asked me about how I interpret the whale flows, which is also how I knew to sell the covered calls, where I did on Tesla earlier today. And one of the guys on the Discord made like huge gains scalping some Tesla puts after he saw the sell signal on the buy sell script, followed through with the me mentioning that I was selling covered calls on it. So yeah, he jumped in some very quick 317.50 puts and he made 120% gain. So good for you, Moorhead. Other tickers. So Riot. Let's talk about the one lotto trade this week that I really was kicking myself for being the smart, safe trader. Earlier this week, I entered Riot very short-term lotto calls. I'm in some longer-term swing calls on several crypto stocks, including Riot. So I'm riding those out here most definitely. But I entered some $10 Riot calls and alerted them right down here earlier this week before the election. And it was because the chart set up mainly. It had nothing to do with the election itself. Hey, Moorhead got that shout out and he's loving it. Cool. Good to know you're listening, dude. Good to know. So I've got this retrace right of the larger downtrend that we broke out, retraced, beautiful, perfect technical bounce there, and then we just ripped. I did not expect that massive rip to happen that fast, so I was the smart safe trader and I sold my I sold my call options when they were up, very nicely and all that, but I had 20 of them, and I didn't expect a 42 point, almost 43% move within 3 days on Riot. So had I stayed in those calls, I would have earned $680 on those 20 calls into like $7,000. Really kind of kicking myself because those options went 726% gains. So that shows you that it's okay sometimes to risk the reward on high risk lotto with shorter term. I'm not saying they always play out like that because they don't. But for me, I'm not going to enter something if the technical setup isn't there and intact to support the move. Another good one today that was moving nicely that I'm going to glance at is GameStop. And I've been watching this because it's kind of been in the range that I like to go long on it here. And if it breaks out above that, I'm absolutely going to add to my long position on it for calls. As of right now, I'm still in the $12, $20, $20 calls. I entered those, when was that? A couple of weeks ago on 10/28. So I saw the support hold there. It had a bit of a bull flag going on, and then it held and pushed with continuation. So we'll see what happens here, especially if this thing gets a breakout above 25. It can go very quickly from 25 to 29. So even from there, if it pushes harder, y'all know GameStop. Y'all know how this works out. So if it does break out and push to the upside, watch for a true rip. I might actually buy some more shares. Like I sold off a bunch of my GameStop shares after selling covered calls on them earlier this year. But I might actually buy more GameStop shares next week or the week after if I see a breakout confirmation. So keep an eye on that. All of y'all know that I've been in kind of stocks and stuff more heavily since GameStop and AMC back in 2021. So Inner Ape definitely comes out strong when it comes to this, but again, you're going to play smart, watch the technicals. Let's see, what other tickers do we have? Analyzer, I see you typing, dude. Oh wait, Joseph, I'm sorry, I see you now. Joseph asked, do you use the weekly charts to determine breakout? So it depends on the, don't understand the covered call concepts. So I actually put a really good write-up on covered calls in the learning channel on the Discord earlier today, and then I put one also in the lounge. But I don't know if you're in the Discord or not, Joseph, but if you want to join, it's free. If you want to come join the Discord, and then in the lounge ask that same question so that I can drop you a link related to covered calls. And I could probably do a better simplified video on that here real soon for you to make life easier. But circling back on your breakout determination for the weekly chart, honestly, it depends on what the time frame and the chart setup is. So if like I see a larger time frame set up across the weekly charts, then yes, I'm looking for the breakout to happen on the weekly chart. So good example of that was with Palantir. Sure, that was a good one that we looked at. Bitcoin, we saw the same thing. But even on those, like here, let me show you really quick, and I'll go back to some other tickers because this is a good learning opportunity. So while we got the breakout of this bullish megaphone, and see how these lines widen, this is a bullish megaphone pattern for those that are still learning. We got the breakout there, but more importantly, it wasn't just that setup that I was trading. So there's actually, I removed the lines as we completed each of these trades, but there was actually multiple bull flags along the way here too. PayPal might be a little bit cleaner to show it just because there hasn't been so many of them repeatedly like that. Yeah, PayPal still has a bull flag drawn right here. So, ooh, Tony, I don't know if you're watching the video, dude, but me and you've been talking about PayPal, and I told you I was looking for the retest of this bull flag. So, to answer your question, Joseph, this setup is presenting itself on the daily time frame as well as on the 4-hour time frame here. Right, this bull flag, you see the flagpole here and the flag, mainly on the daily. But that pattern isn't fully, I mean, it's starting to formulate here on the weekly, so if I can get the confirmation of next week holding above there, then yeah, that's confirmation on the weekly too. But ultimately, this setup for PayPal, it's on the daily that I'm trading that given setup. So confirmation of the breakout here, I don't normally look for just a single candle on a breakout with the 4-hour and the daily. What I normally am looking for is the confirmation of a breakout above whatever the range is or below if it's a setup to the downside, and a follow through candle, because it's not uncommon to see one candle peak above your level for the confirmation and then reject back below. We see that on Tesla quite a bit. So ultimately, if it's a shorter time frame, oh duh, Joe Smooth. Okay, I know who you are now, dude. My bad. Your name's different on YouTube, so I didn't realize it was you. But yeah, let me do a specific video kind of talking through that. That's another good topic I can go through. What is GLD ETF you want me to look at? Yeah, I'll look at for you, Analyzer. So I guess PayPal's another good one that we're glancing at here because we're in some trades for that. Another nice one right now that I've been watching, we've got several crypto stocks that are kind of getting their breakout on at this point. So you can see Mara broke out of this first downtrend. That looks kind of wonky on that time frame for some reason. I don't know what's up with that, but at any rate, it's at a breakout point. We're seeing if it breaks out and confirms here with the retest of this trend line, and then it should push up higher to the 21 level. But I definitely start phasing into longer term Mara calls, just because if crypto rips into 2025, all the crypto tickers for the most part that are Bitcoin miners are going to rip right with it. So definitely watching that coin. Since Tony brought it up earlier in the lounge, I'm going to show you the setup I've been watching on that because it looks like we're playing this out. So another good example, Joe, you can see here we've got the breakout on the daily time frame where this candle is above this trend line. I don't take that just as diehard, like now we run. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Normally I will wait for confirmation with a follow through candle here to see, do we hold above that line for one, for the downtrend, or yeah, technically that trend line, but then more importantly, can it hold above this 257 support as well and crank up? So you can see that 257 level was previously resistance, and I guess a good example of what I was just talking about is this right here, where you can see that we actually peaked up above that level. It then rejected immediately back under, so it didn't get the follow through confirmation. But coin, another very bullish setup going on there right now. If you look at the weekly, look at the massive green candle. That's a cup and handle setup you've got going on here. The measured move on that thing is going to be nuts. A conservative estimate of that measured move is like 500% gains. I'm not saying it rips 500%, but don't underestimate how quickly coin can go from its current range to $400. I mean, if you want a prime example of where people think that something's overextended in the crypto realm, look at MicroStrategy right now. After the reverse split, or I'm sorry, not reverse split, after the forward split that they did for 10-1 back in August, look at this thing. Look at it. It's just the thing that keeps on giving. So MicroStrategy, if you're like diehard not going to trade crypto directly, MicroStrategy is a good one to trade for exposure. I would recommend, if you're not wanting to trade crypto directly, I would recommend trading MicroStrategy over trading the ETFs. Like, I'm just not a fan of crypto ETFs for multiple reasons that I mentioned over in the lounge earlier today. really a lot of the ETFs were only put into place because the U.S. government and, more importantly, the IRS was failing at regulations related to anything crypto. Like, they ultimately could not regulate it due to the nature of it, so therefore they put the ETFs in place because they can regulate securities and ETFs, right? So I'm OG crypto. I believe in it from the fundamental standpoint and kind of the idea that it's not centralized. So obviously it makes more sense for me to be in crypto directly. But if I was to want to trade a stock for exposure, MicroStrategy would be the one because they have significant Bitcoin holdings. So if Bitcoin keeps ripping, it's going to keep ripping too. Something to kind of keep in mind. Evan Salt, you did mention this afternoon marijuana and EV are getting slammed. Good opportunities there. Yeah, be careful with weed stocks right now. So, like, a lot of that was because Kamala, whatever we want to call her, she talked about legalizing it at a national level and everything if she was elected. Well, she didn't get elected. So, they're going to get slammed. I don't remember where Trump really stands on legalization of weed, but just something to keep in mind that they could continue to get slammed a bit into next year. I do trade Tilray quite a bit, so I'll be watching that to kind of see what it does. Right now, yeah, it's just getting hammered, and it's basically at new lows is what it looks like. So I'm not buying here. I'll look for some kind of talk of legislation actually come to fruition before I determine to get back into it. But let's see, what other tickers did y'all ask me to look at? Real quick. There was some ticker I've told y'all to remind me to look at today, and I don't remember what it was, but real quick, I'll look at QQQ and SPY for y'all. Just as a reminder, the ETFs are driven by the underlying, especially the top weightings, and not the other way around, so keep that in mind. So if you look at QQQ here, you can see my measured move for the breakout here is actually around that 550 mark. Honestly, I would like to see a little bit of retracement here to fill some of the gaps, or at least just minimally pull back to support before moving with more upside continuation. It's not really healthy, and it's kind of dangerous when you see just a solid upward move without retracement, because that means that normally when that happens, you have crap like this over here in July that comes into play where basically it kept ripping right here, it kept ripping. Well, once you do that, you kind of lose all of your demand zone basis that you had in play. So whenever you get a breakdown of that, the breakdown off of those kinds of rejections ends up being much more dramatic than the upside move. So on those types of setups, if I see a confirmed reversal where volume is picking up, like you can see here that volume was trending up, that is increased selling when that is happening. So same thing as what we looked at on Palantir, the volume increasing with upside movement. You want to watch out on that kind of setup. So looking at QQQ, yeah, we'll see where this does next week, see if it continues to move. Coca-Cola for analyzer real quick. Yeah, it's hitting a demand zone, so like maybe. I mean, I think that's one of those stocks that's kind of just a good longer term stock is how a lot of people see it. But that right there is a demand zone. So maybe if you're wanting just a longer term overall, maybe safer stock, that might be a good one. I don't recall if they endorse somebody or anything related to the presidency that might be impacting them. So just keep that in mind. I'll chart this one specifically for you separately and then kind of bring it back. Just remind me. So Apple and Google real quick because we are trading some trades on those. Want to make sure I touch them. So Apple, even though we've had market hitting all-time highs and everything, keep in mind, like I said on yesterday's live stream, I won't like just lump all stocks into one big bucket with the way I look at them. So like even though QQQ and SPY are all-time highs, that doesn't mean you should be buying calls on every single stock you trade. That's how people in the retail crowd end up losing a lot of money and don't understand why they can't trade options successfully is because of stuff like that. And unfortunately, a lot of people over on Facebook and stuff don't really clarify that. They just hype it more and more. Some people only actively alert and trade calls because they know the retail crowd is more bullish biased in general, and I'm just not going to talk like that or think like that with y'all. So even though I'm bullish at heart on crypto and a lot of these stocks and tickers that I want to see move higher, I'm still going to keep it real. So Apple here, you can see it did break this uptrend, and right now it bounced here at this support and it retraced off that bounce here, but it rejected. So this is the level I'm watching for a bear flag breakdown. I want to see what happens into next week. I don't think so. With Trump getting elected, one thing you do need to keep in mind is the tariffs that were discussed and that will likely come into play for anything and everything related to China and overseas. A lot of these companies like Apple and others have significant supply chain distribution that comes from China and other foreign countries. So just something to keep in mind. Oh no, my wife just texted me a bunny is stuck and she doesn't know how to free it. Alright. Yeah, we got lots of bunnies that come around the backyard and stuff, so like I'm gonna have to wrap this thing up early and go figure out how to save and rescue the bunny here in just a second. Never mind, she freed it. We're good. We're clear. She said she freed the bunny. So, yeah, there's just a little funny tidbit for the day. But anyways, Apple is here, has breakdown. I want to make sure that this thing's not going to push to the upside or downside. I started phasing into some puts here based off what I saw in the options flow, and we have that trend break, and we're holding a downtrend intact at this point. If you want to see what I'm talking about, this right here is a downtrend. Right, so the shorter term we have a downtrend in play. I want to see what happens here. If especially it pushes up here and rejects again, we're moving more downside. Like I said, this one you want to be careful with into next year, especially in this range, because it broke that major trend. Same thing, Google's kind of showing some weakness to some extent over here. Google completed this inverse head and shoulders upside move, and then since then has been kind of doing some wacky stuff. So let me delete some of these lines just to make things a little bit cleaner when I'm explaining this. You can see that Google caught the bounce off the inverse head and shoulders setup and moved to the upside. It rejected hard off of earnings, bounced at this level of support, and then retraced to that earnings level and rejected hard again. So what I expect from Google here with that multiple rejections going on right there is, for one, if it can't retake and push above that resistance level early next week, it's probably going to fill this gap here at 176.94. If it pushes through that gap and breaks that next support at 175 range, you're going to a 170.53. So, yeah, Joe, the coin prediction is insane, dude. Like, I mean, but crypto as a whole is ripping right now, and coin is going to keep on ripping with it. So, that's the levels on Google, kind of watching how that plays out. But real quick, just to kind of talk through, we talk coin. I want to look at Hood real quick because I want to show you something. Because Hood is benefiting for the same reasons. Because ultimately, a lot of retail traders are going to buy crypto through Robinhood. Even though, from my standpoint, you shouldn't. There's a lot cheaper places to buy crypto without fees baked in. But look here. We're in Hood calls that were swinging there for February calls. They're up 50% today, but trading this bull flag breakout because that is bullish continuation, as well as strong buying volume. So as long as crypto is rocking and retail traders are jumping back into the stock market, it seems, with the election news, Hood's looking solid here. We might see it push even higher back to some of these previous highs. If you look on the weekly, Hood actually took a massive dump, right? So it's pushing up. That's a solid green, big green weekly candle. So this might rip back up. The measured move for the bull flag. What was this setup? Let me go back to the daily so I can see where it drew from. Oh, it was the larger time frame bull flag breakout. Oh, okay. So yeah, the larger time frame bull flag breakout on this thing is back up in that $54 range. So definitely a good one to keep an eye on here with Robinhood, because again, a relatively cheap stock that retail traders can get into. Someone remind me to put that on the list. Actually, I'm gonna put it over here as one that we need to look at adding additional calls to next week. So got that. Definitely loving how that's playing out right now. Let's see, any other tickers we have on the list? Starbucks. Yeah, Starbucks. We started phasing into some calls on Starbucks. And honestly, at the rate that my wife and everyone else goes to Starbucks, like, I should own stock in Starbucks at this point. But you've got this huge gap up that they did whenever they announced and got some of the new news. What do you recommend to trade, hold crypto on? Do you like fees, Coinbase, Robinhood? So I talked about that a few weeks ago in a video. I probably could spend some time talking through that more specifically for y'all for crypto. I'll come back to that here in a minute after I talk through the Starbucks chart, just because that's one of those things that I know I've got like more experience with crypto, so I feel more comfortable with doing what I do on it, but everyone else might. So Coinbase and Robinhood might be your best bet, but at any rate, the measured move, if we get the breakout here on the weekly chart, you can see here Starbucks. For one, the measured move of this bull flag is the 125 level, which again is this previous resistance from the highs. Minimally, I want to watch and see what happens at this confluence between the 104.66 resistance and this downtrend line. So even then, that's a good range. That's a big enough move that you can take some solid gains off that setup. We'll see what happens. I started phasing into Starbucks calls recently with this consolidation. So you can see there that we're actually wicking and showing upward movement. So I'll see what happens here, especially heading into earnings for February. We'll see how that plays out. I know that they just had a new CEO step into play that seems to have some good ideas and intentions for getting things back on track. But I don't know about y'all, but any of the 6 Starbucks in our town that I go to, all the lines are stupid long. So Starbucks does not seem to be lacking for service at this point. But crypto. So if I sent you screenshots of the crypto apps on my phone, there's like 20 of them. And I used to, Bittrex was my main go-to crypto exchange. And like I mentioned in the chat earlier today, along with the regulations that a lot of the crypto companies started facing, like a lot of the actual exchanges just flat out ended up deciding it wasn't worth it, basically, to support US based customers. So therefore they block US based IP addresses. So unfortunately, after using Bittrex since 2016, 2017, they fully dropped support for US based customers. So technically I could use a VPN like I've done with some other exchanges to still use it. That being said, I just typically have steered clear of using Bittrex for the time being, just because sometimes it does flag anyways. But I use L Bank for crypto leverage futures trading. It is based somewhere in Asia, so keep that in mind. Even the error messages and stuff that pop up on it whenever you get it sometimes are in some language I don't understand. I've used crypto exchanges though for like 2024. It's like 8 years. Wow. Okay, I've been in crypto for like 7 or 8 years now. Interesting. Time plus. But I've been using crypto exchanges and apps for several years now, so honestly, they're all kind of the same. It's going to be very overwhelming when you first look at it, because it's like rapid movement of actual orders rather than the more simplified interface you're used to seeing with Coinbase or Robinhood, where you're just basically seeing one big blanket price, because the bid-ask spread, they're basically baking the price into it. So, I mean, you can use Robinhood if you're long holding. Robinhood and Coinbase are probably fine. You're just paying a bit more fees, so actively trying to trade crypto on those is probably not worthwhile, because you need like a percentage move of more than like 5 to 10% sometimes to offset the fees that you don't realize you're paying, because you're paying a higher price than what the market price is for crypto. So if you're buying now for like a larger move, it's totally fine. Like if I look on Robinhood, because that's how I transfer a lot of money off of Robinhood when I make gains with stocks and securities, I will use crypto through Stellar Lumen, which is XLM, and I'll buy that and I'll transfer it off. And same thing with Doge, I'll use that sometimes too. But the last Doge I bought on Robinhood that I transferred off, there's like some remnants still sitting there, so it shows me the percentage gain since I bought it. It's 63% up since when I last bought Doge on Robinhood. So I'm not saying you can't make gains on crypto by trading on Robinhood or Coinbase. I typically would recommend not using Webull, just because not your keys, not your crypto type mindset. Same thing with the Robinhood apps and Coinbase. Like personally, if you're going to buy it and hold it, buy it and transfer it to a cold storage wallet like a Ledger. I've got multiple Ledger Nano S's that I transfer my crypto over to for long-term holdings. If I'm actively trading, I'll put it on an exchange while I trade it, and then I move it off. Because if it's sitting on exchange, that's how people's wallets get hacked and you lose your money. So that's like a little bit of that topic. I could probably talk on that one for a good bit and talk through all the different ins and outs of why, but I won't do that for y'all. Let's see, any other tickers real quick before I wrap it up? Joseph asked, how far should I buy coin calls? So they're getting expensive. That being said, on the setups right now for the crypto tickers, I'd be targeting at a bare minimum January expirations. More ideally, you'd get into March or even June expirations for next year. They're going to cost you more, but they're still going to move greatly. You'll notice I trade a lot of out of the money options, but it's not like, I'm very particular when I do that. I'm not buying random options without any basis out of the money, which is what I think a trap a lot of retail traders fall into, and then they don't understand why their option premium's not going up even though the stock price is going up. So if you were looking at, like, if I look at Riot, because it's going to be a good example and it's easy to talk through, I could buy calls that are out of the money that I feel are well within the trading range by the expiration date, and as long as they have supporting Greeks to make the move, I don't care that they're out of the money because they're still going to increase significantly. Just like Palantir, when I technically bought those, like, let's look at that. That's probably an excellent way to look at it. So let's look at Palantir, because I bought those Palantir calls in, what was that, December of 2023, right? So I bought those Palantir calls right in here last December when I saw the support. Even though it broke temporarily right there, they were a year out. I didn't care. And then we got that one big push up there, and then I was like, here we go. So a good example there, right? I knew that $40 was the all-time highs, but I knew what the measured move and the setup and the potential was for Palantir into this year. So I didn't expect necessarily to have that massive of a push in the last 2 weeks, but that's a good example to show you, because even though $40 was way the hell out of the money at the time, it still made sense because it was well within trading range by the expiration date. That's kind of how I like to look at it from a simplistic standpoint. So, sure, those options really didn't move a whole lot earlier on, especially over in here. They would have popped up like, I don't know, 100% gains or something maybe, which I guess is still a lot, but then they probably would have pulled back here and dropped, and I could look at the history of those options to see how much they fluctuate throughout that time. But, kind of riding the move, and I didn't see any kind of reversal confirmation. If I saw a reversal confirmation, I would have considered selling. I did trim them along the way to cover my cost basis, so there was that, but ultimately that's a good example to show, because I bought far out of the money, but I bought it well far out in the future to where I had plenty of time to let the move play out. And y'all saw those earlier today, 2200%. That might be one of my biggest gains from a swing trade on calls or puts or anything, I think. I know I've done multiple 1,000% plus gains over the last 2 or 3 years on miscellaneous stocks, but that's probably my biggest net gain percentage wise, I think, on a single trade that I've done with something that's that cheap, that far out. So definitely going to get, like, I kind of have a screener set up now that I've nailed down the criteria for that. So definitely we'll be looking at more and more alerts here in the next 2 or 3 weeks, especially into December and January, on several stocks to alert more things like that. Because, like, one thing I am going to start doing, I'll talk about it a bit more on Monday, is shifting up a bit of the tickers that I'm actively trading. And the reason I'm doing that is for watch sell rule. I'll talk about that more on Monday, explain kind of what the watch sell rule is. But it's something that a lot of retail traders don't account for, and they end up taking losses on positions, rebuying a position, taking losses on positions. Then they end up owing a lot of tax at tax time, and they don't understand why. So we'll talk through it next week, but one thing that I tried to do in November is I try to rotate over some of the stocks I've been actively trading. Not so much just for myself, because, like, I'll offset ultimately any of my capital gains with crypto losses on paper, but more so for the sake of anyone that's taking alerts and kind of a good learning experience in general, to make sure that we're allowing at least 30 days for you to be fully out of a position for a specific ticker between now and the end of the year. That way you don't have any wash sales disallowed on your actual tax records going into tax season next year. So just something that I know a lot of people don't talk about, and no, I'm not an accountant by any means, but I've traded and dealt with crypto and stocks for a few years, and I get business and taxes. So just something to keep in mind. Why I will be rotating stocks a little bit. There's plenty of other stocks I've got on a separate watch list. I've been teeing up for us to start swinging on now that we got the election out of the way and the Fed rate decision. So looking forward to it. Hope everyone has a great weekend. If there's any other stuff you want me to look into, please do drop it in the chat, in the lounge. Joseph, I saw your other stuff related to Starbucks, and I don't know if it'll go through the resistance. Like, that's what we have to kind of wait and see for crypto moving up. So I used to, real quick before I wrap up, let me talk about that. I think a lot of people fall into the trap, especially on 3-day weekends, of thinking, okay, the stock market, which, again, Monday the stock market's technically open. However, settlement for any trades from today are not going to be settled on Monday because it's bank holiday. So I think a lot of people with any kind of 3-day weekends like that tend to think that crypto's going to rip because the stock market's closed, so therefore crypto's actively trading 24/7. That's kind of a dangerous mindset to lean in on too hard, just because like that's when you actually have a lot of rug pulls happen too, because people know that retail masses think that. So yeah, just keep in mind, be careful with that. Like I said, we'll keep watching crypto. I'm loving the breakouts right now. I hit a new portfolio high for majority of my holdings on crypto today. I shared it with some of y'all over in the lounge. I'm trying to see if, like, it barely pushed over the next like key figure, and some of y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to state the number here on the live stream or anything like that, but trying to hit the next milestone on that to see if it'll push over. And looking forward to seeing what that does into 2025 as well. So I'll keep riding it out. But again, everybody have a good weekend. If there's any tickers or anything you want me to look at, especially between now and Monday, let me know. I'll block some time out and we can do that. But hope everyone has a great weekend. Have fun. Get some relaxation in. And we'll be back at it next week. Thanks all.